I'm your wife.
Yeah,
I
but not
come
the
before
only one.
anyone.
In India, wife comes second, parents come
Oh,
first.
hell no.
Yeah.
Something has changed between Jenny and Sumit, and this time the signs are impossible to ignore. Sumit has been spending more time away from Jenny. He has suddenly become protective of his phone, and now a completely different house has appeared in the middle of their story. But the biggest shock is not the house, because inside that home is evidence that Sumit may be preparing for a life that does not include Jenny at all. There are new decorations, new clothes, and one carefully placed wedding photo that Jenny has never seen before. The woman in that picture looks familiar, but the truth behind her face could turn this entire relationship upside down. For years, Jenny believed that love was enough to survive every problem around them. She stood beside Sumit when the pressure became unbearable. She defended him when almost everyone doubted his intentions. And she kept choosing their marriage, even when the future looked uncertain. That kind of loyalty usually creates trust, but lately Jenny has been feeling something she cannot explain. Sumit is still kind to her, but his kindness feels controlled. He smiles at the right moments, says the right things, and then disappears emotionally before Jenny can ask what is really happening. The first major warning comes when Sumit mentions that he has found a new place. He does not call it their new home, and that tiny difference immediately matters. He says the house is quieter, more private, and better for the future, but every answer sounds rehearsed. Jenny notices that he keeps using the word I instead of we, and suddenly the conversation feels less like a married couple planning together and more like one person announcing a decision that has already been made. Jenny tries to stay calm because she does not want another argument. She asks why he never showed her the house before making plans, and Sumit quickly explains that he wanted everything to be perfect. That answer should sound romantic, but it does not. It sounds like an excuse designed to keep Jenny from asking the one question Sumit clearly does not want to answer. Who exactly was this house being prepared for? When Jenny finally enters the new house, the atmosphere feels completely wrong. The rooms are clean, the furniture is carefully arranged, and nothing about the place looks temporary. Someone has already chosen the curtains, organized the kitchen, and placed fresh clothes inside the bedroom closet. Jenny knows those clothes are not hers, because the style is younger, more modern, and completely different from anything she would wear. Sumit watches her reaction, but instead of explaining, he becomes strangely quiet. That silence tells Jenny more than any confession could. She walks deeper into the bedroom and notices a small jewelry box beside the bed. Inside is a wedding necklace that looks new, untouched, and clearly chosen for someone. Jenny asks Sumit why it is there, and he tells her not to jump to conclusions. Naturally, that is exactly the kind of sentence people use when the conclusion is already standing in the middle of the room wearing a giant flashing sign. Jenny begins putting the pieces together. The hidden house, the unfamiliar clothes, the new necklace, and Sumit's sudden distance all point in one painful direction. She asks him directly whether he is replacing her, but Sumit refuses to give a clear answer. He says that Jenny does not understand what he has been trying to build, and then he adds something even more disturbing. He tells her that the woman connected to this house has already changed his life. At that moment, Jenny stops looking afraid and starts looking angry. She reminds Sumit of everything she sacrificed to be with him, and she demands to see the person he is talking about. Sumit does not argue anymore. He walks toward a covered frame resting against the bedroom wall, slowly removes the cloth, and reveals a large wedding portrait. Jenny stares at the picture, completely frozen, because the woman standing beside Sumit is not a stranger. The face in the portrait belongs to someone Jenny knows better than anyone, but the image looks recent, polished, and completely different from the wedding memories she has carried for years. Sumit then turns to Jenny and says that before she decides he has replaced her, she needs to understand why this new wife looks exactly like her. The explanation behind that impossible portrait is where the real betrayal begins. Jenny keeps staring at the portrait because the image feels familiar and wrong. The woman beside Sumit has Jenny's face, but she looks younger and dressed in a wedding outfit Jenny has never worn. The background is different from anything Jenny remembers, which makes the picture feel less like an old memory and more like a future Sumit created without her permission. Sumit watches her closely as though he expected this reaction. Jenny asks when the picture was made, but Sumit avoids the question and starts talking about how much their life has changed. He says every year has brought pressure and fear, and he wanted a home where they could finally begin again. Jenny notices that he is still not answering the most important question. A fresh start does not explain unfamiliar clothes, a new wedding necklace, or a portrait that seems to replace the real woman standing in front of him. Sumit finally admits that the image was created recently. He says he wanted to see what their life could look like if everything painful between them disappeared. According to him, the woman in the picture is not another person. She is his idea of Jenny after all the stress, arguments, and disappointment have been removed. That explanation sounds emotional, but Jenny hears something colder underneath it. Sumit is not describing the woman he loves. He is describing a version of Jenny that never challenges him, questions him, or reminds him of the promises he failed to keep. Jenny asks whether the clothes in the closet were also chosen for this imaginary version of her. Sumit hesitates, and that pause gives her the answer before he speaks. He says he bought everything because he wanted Jenny to change her style and feel different in the new house. He expected her to arrive, see the room, wear the clothes, and become excited about starting over. In Sumit's mind, this was supposed to be a surprise. In Jenny's mind, it feels like an attempt to erase her and replace her with a convenient version. The argument becomes intense because Jenny refuses to let Sumit hide behind romantic words. She tells him that building a new house means nothing if he is also trying to rebuild her personality. She has already changed her country, daily life, and almost every expectation she once had. Now Sumit seems to be asking for one final sacrifice, which is for Jenny to stop being herself. Sumit insists that he never wanted to replace her, but his next confession creates an even bigger problem. He reveals that the house is legally connected only to him, and Jenny's name does not appear anywhere. He says he did that because it was easier and faster, but Jenny knows this decision was not accidental. A shared future should not begin with one person secretly owning everything while the other is expected to smile and call it love. Jenny walks through the house again, but now everything feels different. The furniture is not a gift. The clothes are not thoughtful. The portrait is not romantic. Together, they look like a complete life designed by Sumit, with Jenny included only if she agrees to play the role he created for her. The house feels less like a home and more like a test. Sumit opens the jewelry box and places the new wedding necklace in Jenny's hand. He tells her that he planned to ask her to renew their vows inside this house. He says the portrait was meant to represent the beginning of their second marriage, not the end of the first one. For a moment, Jenny appears uncertain, because this explanation is emotional enough to make her question her anger. Then, she turns the necklace over and notices a date engraved on the back. It is not in the future, and it is not connected to any important moment in their marriage. It is a date from 6 months earlier, during the same week when Sumit claimed he was too busy to spend time with her. Jenny looks at him and asks what happened on that day. Sumit's expression changes, and confidence disappears from his face. He tries to take the necklace back, but Jenny closes her hand around it and refuses to let go. That engraved date proves the new house was never a recent surprise. Sumit has been planning this secret life for months, and Jenny is about to discover what he was really waiting for. Jenny keeps the necklace tightly closed inside her hand, while Sumit stands in front of her, searching for an explanation that will not make the situation worse. The engraved date has changed everything, because it proves that this house, the portrait, and the carefully prepared bedroom were not created as a sudden romantic surprise. Sumit began planning this new life 6 months ago, and during that entire time, Jenny had no idea that her husband was making decisions that could completely change their future. Sumit finally admits that the date marks the day he first decided their marriage needed a new beginning. He says he had reached a point where every conversation between them felt heavy, and every plan seemed connected to another problem. He believed that if he created a completely different environment, Jenny might stop focusing on the past and begin seeing him as the man she originally trusted. The explanation sounds thoughtful on the surface, but Jenny immediately notices the hidden insult. Sumit is still treating her emotions like a problem that can be removed with new curtains, younger clothes, and a polished wedding portrait. Instead of asking Jenny what she needed, he designed an entire future and expected her to enter it without asking questions. Apparently, communication was considered too difficult, so he chose secret interior decorating and emotional confusion instead. Jenny asks why he waited 6 months to reveal the house. Sumit says he wanted to finish everything before bringing her there, but she refuses to accept that answer. A home does not need to be perfect before a wife is allowed to know it exists. The secrecy was not about protecting a surprise. It was about protecting Sumit from Jenny's reaction until he had already invested too much to turn back. Sumit then reveals the real reason he kept the plan hidden. He says he was afraid Jenny would refuse to move because the house represents more than a new address. He does not want them to carry their old habits into this place, and he believes they need new rules if their marriage is going to survive. Jenny asks what kind of rules he has in mind, and Sumit hesitates again. He tells her that inside the new house, he wants them to stop discussing everything that happened before the engraved date. He does not want old arguments brought into new conversations, and he does not want Jenny questioning every decision based on previous mistakes. To Sumit, this is a way to forgive each other. To Jenny, it sounds like he wants complete freedom from responsibility. Jenny reminds him that forgiveness cannot be demanded through a house rule. The past does not disappear because Sumit picked a date and placed it on a necklace. Their history includes love and sacrifice, but it also includes secrets, broken trust, and promises that required years to repair. If Sumit wants a second beginning, he cannot force Jenny to forget why the first beginning became so painful. That is when Sumit finally loses his calm expression. He tells Jenny that he feels trapped inside a version of himself that she refuses to release. Every time he makes a mistake, she remembers every mistake that came before it, and he no longer knows how to prove that he has changed. He says the new house was built around one hope, which was that Jenny would choose the future instead of constantly testing him with the past. For the first time since entering the house, Jenny understands that Sumit is not hiding another woman. He is hiding another version of himself. This house is where he planned to become a different husband. But he expected Jenny to transform with him without ever being included in the decision. The supposed new wife in the portrait was not another person. She was a silent and idealized Jenny who would accept his plan exactly as he created it. Jenny places the necklace back inside the box and tells Sumit that his perfect version of her does not exist. She will not wear unfamiliar clothes simply because he selected them. And she will not renew vows while her name is missing from the home where those promises are supposed to matter. If Sumit truly wants another chance, then the second marriage cannot belong only to his imagination. Sumit asks whether Jenny is rejecting the house, but her answer is more complicated. She says the house itself is not the problem. The problem is that everything inside it was chosen to control how she would feel before she even arrived. Sumit prepared the furniture, the clothes, the necklace, and even the version of Jenny he wanted beside him. But he never prepared himself for the possibility that the real Jenny might say no. Jenny begins walking toward the door, and Sumit realizes his surprise is collapsing in front of him. He tells her that there is one final thing she has not seen, and this time his voice does not sound defensive. It sounds afraid. Sumit leads Jenny toward a locked room at the back of the house. He removes a key from his pocket and tells her that everything she believes about this new home will change when the door opens. Jenny watches him unlock it, but before she can step inside, Sumit admits that the most important secret was never the portrait, the necklace, or the missing name. The real secret is why Sumit may have to live in this house without Jenny. When Sumit opens the locked door, Jenny expects to find another disturbing surprise, but the room looks completely different from the rest of the house. There are no modern clothes, expensive decorations, or carefully arranged furniture inside. Instead, the walls are covered with photographs from their life together. and boxes filled with the ordinary memories they created over the years are placed across the floor. Jenny slowly enters the room and notices that every difficult chapter of their relationship has been preserved. There are old travel photographs, handwritten notes, and small objects connected to moments she thought Sumit had forgotten. The room does not represent the new life he was secretly building. It represents the old life he claimed they needed to leave behind. Jenny immediately asks why Sumit created a room dedicated to their past while demanding that she stop talking about it. Sumit admits that he was never truly trying to forget what happened between them. He was trying to prove to himself that the years they spent fighting for their marriage still meant something. The new house was supposed to become their reward, but as he prepared it, he became terrified that Jenny would never see him as a different man. Then, Jenny notices a packed suitcase beside the wall. It belongs to Sumit, and it contains enough clothing for more than a short trip. The sight of that suitcase changes the meaning of the locked room. Sumit was not only preparing a new home for Jenny, he was also preparing to walk away from it. Sumit finally confesses that he had created two possible endings. If Jenny accepted the house, wore the new necklace, and agreed to renew their vows, he would stay and begin again with her. However, if she rejected the life he had designed, he planned to leave the house behind and disappear from the marriage without another painful argument. Jenny cannot believe what she is hearing. Sumit had turned their future into a secret test, but he never told her that she was being tested. He expected one reaction, prepared for another, and convinced himself that either outcome would give him control. This was not a romantic gesture. It was an emotional trap hidden behind a beautifully decorated home. Jenny tells Sumit that marriage does not work when one person creates the questions and secretly decides what every answer means. If she loved the house, Sumit would believe she had become the new wife from the portrait. If she questioned the house, he would believe their marriage had no future. Either way, the real Jenny was never given a fair choice. Sumit admits that the portrait was meant to show Jenny as he wanted to remember her. He wanted to see the woman who once trusted him completely, before years of secrets changed the way she looked at him. However, Jenny reminds him that trust cannot be restored by editing a photograph or changing someone's clothes. Trust returns when both people are finally honest, even when honesty creates uncomfortable consequences. Jenny then finds a folder resting beneath Sumit's suitcase. Inside are legal papers showing that he had started the process of placing the house in her name. The papers are incomplete because one final signature is missing, but the intention is clear. Sumit planned to give Jenny the house whether he stayed or left. For a moment, the entire argument changes again. Sumit was trying to control the future, but he was also preparing to protect Jenny if that future ended without him. His actions were still secretive and deeply unfair, yet they were not driven by another woman or a desire to steal everything from her. They came from fear, guilt, and the belief that Jenny might be happier if he removed himself from her life. Jenny refuses to give Sumit an immediate answer. She tells him that she will not become the silent woman in the portrait, and she will not pretend their history disappeared because he bought a necklace. If they move into the new house, the clothes will be removed, the portrait will be changed, and every major decision will belong to both of them. Sumit asks whether that means she is willing to stay. Jenny says she is willing to consider a new beginning, but only if Sumit understands that a new beginning does not require a new wife. It requires the same wife to be treated like an equal partner. Jenny takes the packed suitcase and places it outside the locked room. She then gives Sumit the unfinished ownership papers and tells him that his first step is completing the promise he made without telling her. Sumit looks at the papers, then at Jenny, and realizes that she is not accepting his perfect plan. She is replacing it with a real one. The new house has finally been revealed, and so has Sumit's new wife. She was never another woman waiting in secret. She was the younger, quieter, and more obedient version of Jenny that Sumit created inside his mind. By the end, Jenny does not allow that imaginary woman to replace her. She walks into the house as herself, carrying every memory, every question, and every hard-earned piece of the truth. This is a fictional story, created for entertainment purposes only.